right, welcome to the Dragon's Tome, episode 150. I am your host, Chopper, joined ever so much so with our friends Rob and Jack.
Hey,
Always.
everybody.
Once again, I don't even know what month we're in.
We're in October.
This is October. Oh, yeah, this is the Halloween one.
Cover should tell you.
We're in October 1989.
Halloween Magic in October Dreams.
Our friend, longtime listener, longtime friend Larry Elmore.
Yes.
Drew our little cover today.
Scarecrow.
A witch and her scarecrow. Apparently, this is in Kentucky, which might be part of Earth. I'm not sure.
And a kitty.
I don't think
that's her scarecrow. I think it's about to kill her.
I think it's a possessed scarecrow.
And it's about to murder her.
Unfortunately, he's got a stick stuck between his sleeves, so he can't envelop his hands around her throat.
He just flail around.
Yeah, I'll just turn into a Tasmanian devil and rip her apart with those limb hands.
Well, there's a skull.
I'm of the opinion that it is her scarecrow. That someone's given her the guff, and she's like, yeah.
She got this big old swatch of stick.
I think that one's saying otherwise. Like, hey, this is my.
This is heavy duty. This is the equivalent of an AR-15 in Magic Wands.
There's a skull on the fence, so she's already murdered other people.
Yeah. Now, apparently, there's a hidden arrowhead in this thing, and I did look for it.
Oh, why?
Because it's just one of those things. They say, if I look for a hidden arrowhead.
And if Larry says to look for an arrowhead, we're going to look for an arrowhead.
What does that even mean?
Oh, my God. How do you not know what it's fairly straightforward. There's a hidden arrowhead in the picture.
Well, there's tons of little arrowheads. There's all these wood crossing into little points. And
it's in his hand. I looked.
Did you?
The scarecrow's hand, yeah.
Which one?
I see nothing in the scarecrow's hand.
The one by the wand.
If that's an arrowhead, call me silly. That looks like a rock, if anything.
Well, I don't want to be, I'm actually historian on you, but an arrowhead most likely is made of rock.
Yeah.
I think the tiles in the roof look more like arrowheads than what's in his hand.
I don't know what kind of arrows you've been shooting, but Jesus Christ, not one of those tiles look like an arrowhead.
Yeah, there is.
Not a
triangle.
This is why when you go hunting, you don't kill anything. You're hunting with square arrowheads. It just hits them in the side, and you get pissed off and run away.
There's a lot of fauna with square-sized bruises on their flanks.
There's quite a few pointy. Look at that one right there. It's pointy. It looks like a fucking arrowhead. It's the fourth one down at the front. It's pointy.
If I were running this show, I would have stopped this tomfoolery and hijinks a long time ago.
Well, it's because you don't have a penchant for tomfoolery and hijinks. But that being said, let's move on then. Good picture, Larry Moore. I mean, you can't say anything bad about it.
No. That's why we're fluffing around, because it's an amazing picture as always. It's Larry Elmore.
Classic.
I love his scenery is almost as good as the pictures every single time. So
yeah, that's when his backgrounds are. So it's an all-encompassing picture. Like you can't hate it.
Can't say anything bad.
All right, so let's move on. Rob, you want to go first so you can do your little editorial?
I will do my little editorial on page 7. Good old Roger E. Moore. It's a review of Gen Con 89 at Mecca in Milwaukee, where Adepticon's going to be this upcoming year. Although it's a different building, because they tore that building down and rebuilt it. But actually, in 89, it might be the new building by now. I'm not sure. 10,000 people attendance, held the same time as the 101st Airborne Reunion and a huge rap concert. So I think that's hilarious.
Imagine rapping in 89 at that point. Hello, Cool J, maybe?
Does it say who it was?
It could have been Public Enemy and Anthrax.
No.
That tour was 89 too.
That would have been funny, but let's see if it does it say who it was?
If they said Bringing the Noise, if I would suspect Pat's probably correct.
I mean, that's a long shot. I mean, there's tons of other rap guys around that time too.
Yeah, could have been Run DMC. Could have been
NWA.
It just says a large rap concert. It didn't say what it was. But
I'm gonna throw my dart to NWA.
Huge police presence, he said. I wonder why.
Definitely NWA.
I was just gonna say, yeah, that's classic. We've all seen the movie.
Roger E. Moore was also hitting on Margaret Weiss, it seems, at the time. It's a little thing going in there.
Did we see her at Gen Con this year?
Yep.
Yeah.
Intro to 2nd edition AD&D, Champions 4th edition, Cyberpunk, and Shadowrun all this show. So it's a big show. There's a bunch of, he said some of his favorite minis are furry minis. As we know, furries are a phenomenon, but the minis are coming. That was his big thing. He also said Buckaroo Banzai. He wanted to buy a Buckaroo Banzai shirt, but he forgot. Also debuting are the Battletech pods. First time showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And Roger also played Cyberpunk run by Mike Pondsmith, the creator of Cyberpunk. And he said he had a good time.
Shadowrun was sold at Gen Con.
I said that already, yeah. You don't listen very well.
I did. I'm reiterating.
And yeah, it sounds like in all, it sounded like a really good experience. But it sounded like every experience as a Gen Con dealer. He said he was tired and people got sick, and it sounds like Gen Con this year. So
yeah.
But in general, 89 sounds like a good Gen Con to go to. Sound like a good one.
Yep, I was in California, so I didn't get to go.
Yeah. Well, when we invent time travel, we'll go back and go to the 89 Gen Con. How's that sound, guys?
That would be nice. All right, Jack?
Me.
Where would you like us to go?
Okay, if we could go to PDF page 94, please.
Oh, right to the end. You don't have any articles, do you?
No, this is one of mine.
Well,
no, I went not one of mine.
I was going to say I went
this
deep,
isn't one of mine.
so that there'd be no overlap.
I did read this, but I was going to make one of mine, but I chose not to.
And it flies in the face of everything Rob believes in for Call of Cthulhu, so he would never have chose it. So I was pretty safe. So I could. This article by Dean Shamshak is a library of like 6 different books for Call of Cthulhu, with the in the vein of like the Necronomicon, like ancient tomes and stuff, and it gives the background almost like it's done in an ecology type way, where it's written as if someone was talking about it, but without getting rules even. It's interesting. Anyways, these 6 different books are they have the lore, they have the background and the whole mysticism stuff in the style of Call of Cthulhu, which is all these, things you could tell your players about the history that are almost nonsensical or so esoteric that it shouldn't make any difference. And I think that's what makes Call of Cthulhu interesting, because you could glom on any one of these little tidbits of history and be completely wrong about the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
In canon, I guess most of these books are ways to get spells to the characters anyways. That's usually when you find a book, you're going to get a spell out of it. But he does touch, since I did read he does touch on a little bit how to make your own, but it's very convoluted and not very well thought out.
What it does is actually it also lays out some of the most famous tomes from the Cthulhu mythos, which shows how early this is in Call of Cthulhu, that these aren't already been described somewhere before, because I'm amazed that these aren't like there probably eventually will be a book full of this stuff.
Yeah, he does say that some of these books are taken from the H.P. Lovecraft works.
Most of them are like most of them are famous, not from necessarily H.P. Lovecraft, but mythos. So a lot of these, I'm amazed, aren't already described in Call of Cthulhu at this point, but it just shows.
Like you're saying, in the original source book, these would have been already a version of these already in the book. Yeah, well, I never thought about that, but if they're that prominent in the works.
Yeah, these are like all the famous ones. But I do say that one should never read a tome, so this is a useless article. Jack was correct.
Rob's argument is the books are not there.
I don't disagree with Rob, but I also don't agree.
Never read them.
Like sometimes you need to read a tome.
Nope, never do.
Only if you want to go insane.
Yep, that's right.
Sometimes
if you want to go insane, read a tome.
Sometimes you need to read a tome to get a hat off your head.
No, not me. Somebody else can read that tome.
Who was wearing that hat? I think it was Jack, wasn't it?
It was Jack.
It was a chapeau.
It was a fez.
Pat, It's your turn.
All right, so Call of Cthulhu, my turn. We're going to go to page 14.
14. It's a
The
bestiary.
Dragon's Bestiary, where we talk about the Mind Flayer. So this, with addition to another article in this magazine, creates and talks about Under-Earth, which I think becomes Underdark in Forgotten Realms, but Under-Earth in Forgotten Realms. Greyhawk? I mean, don't quote me on that. That's probably wrong, but I don't remember what Greyhawk used to use a lot. But this one describes all the different creatures in Under-Earth. It describes the amorphs that live in that part of the world, which is what you find out later is a parallel pocket dimension. Amorphs, which covers oozes and puddings and etc. like that.
Ooh, pudding.
And then and then the fungi, which covers the molds, the gas spores, which you read are kind of placed like roving landmines by the Illithids. Shriek and the Shriekers that they use as warnings, like guard dogs in a sense, or ADT alarms. What kind of alarms you guys got in Canada?
We don't need alarms because we're safe here.
Yeah, that's true.
We don't even lock our doors.
Oh God.
We let our kids play out after dark, and
you just put maple syrup on the steps so people get stuck trying to come in.
No, people just don't come in.
Yeah, it's not their house.
Why would they be coming in?
And then finally, you got the Illithidae. I think that's the plural for Illithid.
Yeah, probably.
And all of these cover all the creatures that roughly have 4 tentacles around what's considered a big mouth, and they have 4 multiples of 4. So then there's the Illithids, of course, which is the top of the food chain at this point. Then you have some of the subclasses, which are called like the Saltors. In this instance, they use the Saltors as comparison to us and apes. So they're like the next, what do you want to call it? Genre? Class?
Next species? No, it's not
down
species.
from us, but from the Illithids. And they have some canine types called the Cessarids. But if you were a big fan of Mind Flayers, and I'm going to call them Mind Flayers, then this article opens a bunch of possibilities of using them throughout, because you get the different types of creatures that come from the Under-Earth.
Yeah, if you want to go in the Underdark a lot, this is a good article to populate the world instead of just having generic things in there.
So
fun.
Yeah. All right. But it's a really good article. Rob, what do you got next?
Oh, it's back to me. We're going to go to page 34.
I figured one of you guys would do these Call of Cthulhu ones.
There's a lot of Call of Cthulhu in this one because it's Halloween-y, but it's a well-rounded monster hunter. And that house looks familiar. Yes, this is a new skills for Call of Cthulhu, which are mostly in the new version, so it's kind of useless nowadays. But once again, this is early days for Call of Cthulhu, and it also introduces the idea of difficult checks, which is also in the new version. So this is like pretty much what I don't know what version it turns into, 2nd or 3rd edition Call of Cthulhu. All this stuff gets added into it, so it's pretty useless now, but it's interesting historically.
Yeah, it talks about modifying die rolls, which are, like you said, in this. But there was also a lot of talk of specialization skills, which they still don't use in Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah, the idea of you have instead of archaeology, you have Egyptology instead, but you also have
That's talking about adding that into there, which is a bit weird. I mean, it's more of that was more of a Shadowrun thing.
Yes,
where you would have your specialty and then expertise.
Yeah.
You get bonus dice, but he was talking about using something like that in Call of Cthulhu. I don't know if
you just put points into it.
See that in Call of Cthulhu, or just put more points, because at this point, Call of Cthulhu still is percentile based, whereas Shadowrun you're rolling dice pools, so you need to add dice or subtract dice or dice pool in a sense. So I don't know, mechanics a bit different. So I think it works better in Shadowrun than it would in Call of Cthulhu, my opinion.
Yeah, Call of Cthulhu is all about you have a skill for everything pretty much, and if you have points into it, like I'm sure if you have archaeology, your GM might say, well, you know a little bit about Egyptology because you have archaeology, so you have a certain percentage, but other way around too, I'm sure. It's kind of discretion more than rules, but generally they have so many skills in Call of Cthulhu that it pretty much covers everything. It's rare that you go through the list and you're like, oh, that doesn't come up. Like Cyberpunk, sometimes you're like, what? Oh, there should be a skill for this. And Call of Cthulhu, there's a skill for everything.
Yeah.
And some terms become so innocuous that you're like, oh, I'm going to use my perception. And you're like, that's not in this game.
Yeah,
you're
that's
like,
right.
What's the...
Yeah, what was it in spot hidden and things like that? Yeah,
spot hidden, something like that. You go, well, in this game, it's kind of covered here or whatnot.
Or I'm going to intimidate someone. Well, that's totally different in this game. Then,
But for the most part, you can look down your list and see.
Yeah, Call of Cthulhu. That's why it kind of covers everything, but it also it's kind of clunky in that way. I guess you got to look, but still.
Yeah.
You also have to be creative about using your skills too, and you're like, oh, I'm going to try to use this, and okay, that's kind of related, but.
Yeah, what you can specialize in a sense by adding knowledge skills, because knowledge skills, at least, what can give you the bonus that you're looking for.
Well,
in a specialization,
you can always just put more points into it, and you're building your character.
Yeah.
In case anyone's watching, Pat was bit by a mummy.
Oh yeah.
So the transformation's happening very slowly, but.
He's just showing it so everybody feels sorry for him. Never see his hand before in his life.
I was trying to get this podcast rolling, and Jack lashed out at me. And
Jack's the mummy?
No, Jack wrenched my hand. You know, he said, "You sit in that chair
he
right now."
You. I see.
You just do what I tell you.
Yeah, let's continue Jack's idea of he's an action abuser. It's true. Save us. Call the police. Anyways,
some people like me. Like last week, I showed my foot on camera.
Yeah, I'm sure that went over well.
Well, actually, a podiatrist reached out to me, Dr. Foot Fetish, and wanted me to put both of my feet on the camera, push them together. I don't know.
Jack, no, please, no, don't.
What?
No, please.
No,
you can send that to me.
You can't do that.
You send that him privately. You could do that privately for him.
It's your turn. It's your turn.
Ask
to go
for money
though.
Anyways, ask for money when he does it though, Jack. Don't forget.
So which page are we going to now, Jack?
Me.
It is you, foot fetish.
Oh, okay. These segues are getting labored. Can we please go to page 7? We're going to. It could be a two-parter if someone else. If I can segue with someone else. Right at the top here, we're looking at the letters. The vampire revamped, and it goes. This letter is, "Dear Dragon, the AD&D second edition game is great system." Okay, thank you. But I was shocked recently purchasing the Monstrous Compendium, Volume 1. In the 2-page entry for Vampire, the second page merely repeats the text of the first. The illustration is different, but rather than going into the habitat and ecology of the vampire, the information on page 1 is repeated word for word.
I sort of remember this.
I didn't, so that's why I'm bringing it up.
I don't either, so I might have to go look at my Monstrous Compendium and see if it's.
I kind of remember. I think it is an error, and I sort of remember this when it came out.
So I don't know where mine is. When I found all my D&D stuff, the Monstrous Compendium wasn't amongst it.
I definitely have it, but it's way up there, and I'm not climbing up there right now to go get it.
Okay, so I was just wondering.
See that book? It's right there. See that book right there? It's that book right there.
Yeah.
I gotta get the ladder out. I'm not getting the ladder out right now.
No. Because then I've seen you with the best intentions. You go up there, and then you.
I get all scared. I thought. Nope. Sliding,
singing about how the rest of the villagers don't appreciate your book-loadedness.
I thought you were more. I was scared, and I was going to shake.
No, I was going more Beauty and the Beast.
Well, yeah, we'll have to come back to this. One of us.
If anyone has that vampire first run vampire thing, let us know, because that'd be cool to know. Because I never even knew that was a thing.
It's a misprint.
So I must not have had it, or my friends must not have had it.
Or you just, or at the time you just passed over it and were like, oh, that's weird, and you never thought about it again.
At this point, I'm not playing D&D anymore.
Oh, you never had the Monstrous Companion?
I didn't get it till way after second edition came out.
See, I had it right away. Like, that was when it came out.
I would say in another 3 more years is when I start playing second edition.
Yeah. Well, this is when I first started playing. At this point, it's probably the first games of D&D were being played.
No, maybe 2 more years. Maybe 2 more years, because I was still a senior.
Although we probably didn't have second edition at the time, because I think in rural Canada, I don't think we had second edition. We weren't going to game stores or anything, so it would have taken a while before it actually got to us.
This letter is from a Canadian from Windsor, Nova Scotia. So
Windsor, Nova Scotia. That's very confusing to me.
Because we're used to our Windsor.
Maybe that's an error. And let's see. Is there Windsor? That'd be funny if that's an error.
Windsor, Nova Scotia.
That'd be funny if that's a mistake.
And,
well,
but
while you're doing that, Rob, turn us to page 34 first. Or not 34, 21.
I'm looking up Windsor, Nova Scotia. There is a Windsor, Nova Scotia. What page, sir?
21.
Let's see where Windsor, Nova Scotia is. Oh, it looks like it's right on the border with...
Actually, started on 20, because that's a really cool picture.
It's sort of near New Brunswick. That is a creepy picture.
But the article is The Sunset World. Now, this is the edition article I was talking about with the Dragon's Bestiary. This is now describes the realm of the Mind Flayers. But this article is really cool because it's told in a form of like a scholarly form where it basically tells the tales of a group of scholarly magic users.
Like the classic bestiaries were.
Yeah. Like with the help of a Githzeri, he traveled to the home of the Lithe, which then they find out it's an extraplanar dimension undiscovered till now. And it talks about the travel through the world and describes the environment and the different biomes, which is really cool.
So this is more for like Spelljammer, really.
Yeah, in a sense. It's dark. Matches. They talk about how the environment matches like the Underearth, which is why they think the Illithid have moved into the Underdark or Underworld or Underearth, whatever you want to call it at this point, because I don't think Underdark's even a thing at this point yet. But they talk about the different. I'm sorry. The different areas where they see all the different creatures they talk about in the Dragon's Bestiary. So it's a very put together article, and if you're looking for source material, this is also a very good article. In addition to if you wanted to, say, hunt a Lithid in a sense.
It's a very long article too. It goes all the way to page 67.
Yeah, but it was actually a good story. I kept reading it and I was like, because it talks about all the different things. It talks about the fungoids where they run into. It talks about the Saltors, the apes, and then they are chased off by a bunch of the Cessarids, and then they find an Illithid city or town or whatever, and kind of Star Trek-esque make camp and kind of observe it from far away, which I find it weird because you're talking about a psionic creature. How does he not just know that you're there?
Well, maybe they have to concentrate. You got to be able to sneak by him. They don't just.
But in order to pass the story forward, you move. You suspend disbelief for a little bit, don't you?
Well, they can't be like scanning everywhere all the time. Otherwise, it'll probably drive them insane.
No,
they'd be like that cricket's making a lot of noise over there.
And they even talk about the misconception that Illithids eat the brain. What they do is they drill into the brain with the beak, and they put something in your brain which they psionically control, which then does. I have to reread it again.
They eat the psionics instead.
Yeah, where they eat the psionic from the brain, but while they control the thing that they put inside the brain that it eats the brain.
Those wacky mind flayers. When will they ever win?
The only thing I'm very sad about is they don't really talk about what happens to the Githzeri throughout this whole thing, because how was it the Githzeri and the Githzeri were all slaves of the Lithids and they revolted and they hate them.
You know much more about this than I do.
Yeah.
Yes, I just know there's a Githyanki and that they are pretty dope looking on the Fiend Folio, and that's all I know.
That's all he knows.
But again, very, very good source material if you're looking to start an adventure in the Sunset World, but Lithids like that. If you're looking for something different to do, this is very, very chock full of good information to kind of create a campaign or a one-shot adventure through.
Nice.
Rob, do you have any other
How
article?
dare you skip me? Page 49. Nobody lasts forever. This is all about Marvel superheroes game and the fact that in comic books, superheroes never really die. They always come back. So this is interesting rules for what happens to a character after death and how to resurrect them. All different various means of resurrecting them. And also has a neat way that if you die, it's a way to remodel your character. So you can like change the stats and stuff. I think that's a really cool idea. Also, it has rules for what happens when a character who has immortality loses that ability and what happens to them, which is kind of funny. Like,
like the Beyonder.
Yeah, do they just all automatically die, or do they wither up, or they age faster, or it's just kind of fun. There's a bunch of different charts you can roll on to find out, and it's a fun little article. And it's something I never really think about. In especially Marvel superheroes, you think obviously the character's not going to die. They never die in superheroes. They'll be back, but it's a neat way to kind of quantify that.
Yeah.
Add some stats to it. Fun little Marvel superheroes article, and where Marvel superheroes articles are few and far between at this point. I think it's coming to the end of days for Marvel superheroes. So
yeah,
we're got to take them when we get them.
And it does reference Alpha Flight, our favorite NFL gamma ray scientists, Walter Langowski, also known as Sasquatch, dying and being resurrected, losing his orange form because he is aided by Snowbird, who is basically a white color. And he becomes a white Sasquatch.
Sam Squatch.
Yeah,
and it shows death, although she doesn't look very pretty there. Thanos would not be looking after that death. He wouldn't be up on that.
Well, don't yuck his yum.
I'm sorry. It's a fun little thing. Anyways.
All right. Jack, on the off chance, do you have another article?
No, sir. I follow the rules.
You did you do 2 articles?
Yes, I did.
Wow. I did 3 articles then. Yeah, I did with the editor.
Okay. So my last article then, we're going to go page 85.
So that theatrics of don't skip me, I have an article was a genuine mistake because I was like, okay. Was it like, did you genuinely forgot that you had done 2 articles and did a third?
No, I always do 3 at least. I just okay. I forgot I did 3. I thought I only did 2, but I did 3.
That's what
I actually had 4 because you did the one that I was going to do. Even though I jokingly said that I wasn't going to do that article, I was going to do that article.
It's a lot of comedy. This is getting pretty meta.
It is meta. We have to explain our comedy to the viewers because they don't get it. We're joking.
84, 85, Final Frontier of Your Own. This is for fastest Star Trek role-playing game.
Sulu's looking at me.
Yeah, with the Andorian right next to him. This was a nice little article on how to create a campaign in a setting that already has a giant amount of lore to it. And a lot of background story preset, because we're talking about tons of fiction, the TV shows themselves, and like that.
Yeah.
I mean, so it gives you a couple step-by-steps, I think, around try to make your own campaign set in a universe that's so put together, like the Star Trek universe. I mean, even Star Wars universe could be lumped into this. Any one of those. Lord of the Rings, even to that sense. I mean, so it's like a step 1 is to be very, very familiar with the lore and deciding where in the town you want to put your campaign, which is very good. He's also talks about choosing the type of ship, and you want to make sure that your players are putting together the right kind of members of the crew for that ship so they can still work together. You know, you don't want someone that's, a red shirt and someone in engineering and someone in the cafeteria.
Try to make them all bridge crew at least. Or lower decks or
lower decks, something like that. And but those are the 2 main things. He talks about timing, where you want to put your campaign, which we already talked, how you want to put it in. Like, for instance, he started his campaign in a ship that was a Constitution task ship, which also got refitted after the Enterprise got refitted from the Star Trek 1 movie and came back from their 5-year. So his ship got refitted 5 years after the Enterprise and put that in the campaign after that with those events in place. So
upgraded a bit.
Yeah. So, you know, you got to think of those different things because we're on, what is that, 5 versions of the Enterprise now? 6 if you watch some of the Picards and the Discoveries, which Jack hates the passion.
Discovery's terrible. Picard's terrible. Yeah. Strange New Worlds, pretty good.
Yeah, but that's backwards too. So
yeah, I know. It's a prequel. That's why it's good.
Yeah. So,
and they were honest about what they're doing. They're taking the Federation as a paramilitary organization of professionals, and they've right off the hop they've said Strange New Worlds. They're kind of like a
ragtag group.
Yeah, and there's rules, but there's not really
because it's more like Star Trek.
Well, he does.
It's more like a High School Musical.
He does put that in there about that Prime Directive rule, how you can play around with that to make really nice adventures and things like that.
That's a lot of Next Generation was all about trying to figure out how the Prime Directive works, and a lot of stories are about that in that.
So you can play around with it. So, but all in all, I think this is a very good article to tell you how to. Because one of the things, you know, we did play past the Star Trek. We liked it, but we also had a hard time trying to figure out what are we doing. You know, sometimes are we just playing stories that we've read or watched on TV
That's the hard
already?
bit. Yeah, to think, especially if there is so much out there already, it's hard to think of something new. Because otherwise, it's just like, that happened in this episode of this. And it's like, oh yeah, that's right.
So this is a very good article on how to get your head straight and get your notes down and put yourself in the right direction.
That's why when me and Jack invented our Star Trek world, it was they were crashed on a planet and they had to work together, and it pretty much got remade as another show. So
yeah,
that's the way it works.
All right.
Our Enterprise like ship was had a lot of Borg tech in it, so that was cool.
Nice.
And our captain looked like Al Jorgensen from Ministry.
Al Jorgensen.
Yeah.
Good times. Good
times. He had to step up the crash.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Federation captain's dead, and you got this guy that's had his own ship. You know,
it was
just because he looked.
I wish we had still. I don't have any of those notes anymore. I don't think, but I wish we had it. I'm sure it was great.
All right, Jack. Do you have any ads?
I do have an ad.
What's your ad? Where are we going?
If we could go to page 15, please.
15.
Yep, that's my ad.
It was not my ad.
15. Okay, sometimes the bad guys get the upper hand. Now we are talking. If we're talking about movies and sequels and stuff, and Empire Strikes Back, I think that's the high water mark for good sequels and or movies. Like you can't argue with that.
I could.
So you are going to make your Galaxy Guide 3 with all updated people and stats and things from the new movie. By God, is that ever a nice cover? When I saw that, the negative space of Darth Vader's escape.
I'd be very surprised that it's not a Drew Struzan cover, because that is it very
becomes
good cover.
The space that the TIE fighters are flying, and then the background is also colors are also Hoth, so you can see the Tauntaun and stuff like that. It's absolutely amazing. I've never played the game, but if I was ever going to play the game, this is the book I'd have tucked under my arm. Lovingly.
I did pick this art because more so in my sense, if I wanted to ask our listeners, does anyone know why the Western version died out? Because it seems to me it's still very popular.
They lost the license, I'm sure.
And that goes it because did it die out just because they lost the license?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it was some kind of thing where they whoever owned I guess Lucasfilm owned the license, and they just wanted to go a different way.
Which is weird because if you look at all the old articles, Lucasfilm actually was so impressed with WEG, what they were doing with it. They actually gave Timothy Zahn all their core books, source material, to base what he was writing.
A lot of the names and everything are from the role-playing game. Like, a lot of the names we know today are from the role-playing game and the card game. But, like, because in the actual movies, a lot of these people never had a name. Like there was just background characters, but the role playing game and the cards gave everybody names.
Yeah,
and,
because then after West End loses it, then it goes to Wizards of the Coast, and
well, I think that
Wizards of
answers a lot of your
made
question.
it more, well, yeah, well, Wizards of the Coast made more like 4th edition D&D, which we all know was not very good. And then Fantasy Flight got it, and they did whatever they do with all their role-playing games. They just make proprietary dice. They call them storyteller dice. So.
And see, I thought it had something to do with East End girls.
No, that's West End Boys.
That's West End Boys.
Oh.
And that's the Depeche Mode role-playing game.
No, it's not Depeche Mode. It's Pet Shop Boys.
Rob couldn't. Pat zing! Got the hook went right. Whoop, gilled him. Right. It went right in Rob's mouth, out the gill.
All right, Rob, what's your article?
Oh, the reason that the West End Games lost Star Wars is that they went bankrupt in 1998.
Oh.
So there you go. So something happens. Well, probably in the dead times between before the prequels, it probably was. If they had only been able to hold out for like a few more years, they probably would have got the resurgence that Star Trek got or Star Wars got. But there was no, at that time it was really lagging in anything. Like other than books, books were the only thing keeping it alive. Like my first ad is on page 69. This is going to be a little question. Nice. It's the Elysium Field Time Tracker. This recently came up on Tim Kask's podcast. If you've listened to it on YouTube, people are literally obsessed with keeping time. It's never been an issue in any game I've ever played that it really mattered, but for some reason people are obsessed with like very accurate down to the minute time tracking. And this is like what 4 different charts to try to track time. It's weird.
It's so hard to do that. To be,
well, it just, how about ruining any kind of immersion you might have by doing that? Like, like I understand you got to be like, okay, you can't do 8,000 things in your turn, but you know.
Well, you could buy this in Games Plus apparently.
The Elysium Time Tracker.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
You send an envelope to Games Plus.
Oh, oh yeah, that's probably who made it. Yeah, that's funny. Games Plus actually made this as a product. That's funny. Well, we should go talk to the guys. Yeah.
I should ask him. Hey, you guys anyone got those Elysian Field time trackers?
I think this is the obvious. When you have a game that's based on a tactical tabletop game, and then you create role playing based around it, but you still have the rounds and turns, and this is the logical progression of that, because people will say, well, a round is so many
seconds,
seconds, and then I should be able to in so much time do it, or conversely, no, that would take way longer than
it becomes pedantic, right? That's what Tim Kask even was like. No, I just, this might take a little longer, so you get thrown to the back of the pack, but he doesn't actually track seconds. Like,
yes, but I can see why it's not out of nowhere. It's based on the original source material.
And there's people obviously who really care about it. Like I said, people are still to this day caring about it. So
there's some people who can't get outside.
Don't think that. They think different. Yeah, they think differently.
It needs to be like this.
Well, even my nephew, when we play with him, we play originally on Roll20. We played in real life, and we didn't have maps. We didn't have anything because we're just used to playing without maps and everything. But he was so confused because, where am I? Where am I? This? It's like, it doesn't really matter. Just say you're behind that car over there. It doesn't matter. But yeah, it's just funny the way you either learn to play or also how you think. Like, we're so used to just doing mind's eye that none of this matters to me. Like I'll play with miniatures, but
you enjoy
it doesn't
though.
Affect me. Yeah, whatever. If you're into it, sure. There's how many articles we come across where like, who the fuck would care about this? And tons of people care about it. So it's just not the way we happen to play. And Pat, amazingly, is kind of very similar to us, coming from a totally different part of the world. But it's we kind of mesh.
It's just how you learn to play, right? It's how my cousins learn to play, and it's how me and my friends learned to play when I got back into it again.
I'm sure people who started playing with 4th edition have a very different idea of how to play D&D than we do.
Yeah,
like
no one would understand. I don't think there's a lot of people out there, or these newer players would understand how to bubble map.
Oh yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah, they have to have very accurate. Yeah. Anyways, I thought that was a little interesting little ad to start a conversation. So that was my one ad. I have 2 others.
Okay. Well, my last ad then. We'll just go to page 85. I'm sorry, 101.
Oh. 101.
It's the Monstrous Companion. I know we've seen a couple of these articles, but now
I love the cover there.
Yeah, I was thinking about this as I was looking at this ad earlier today. So the question so much more popped in my head is that did people when this book came out, if you remember back then, did you like this format better with the 3-ring binder and the sheets, or did you like it better as a book, which it eventually becomes later on down the line anyway?
I never knew it was a book, but I hated the sheets because the sheets always pulled out. I wasn't rich enough to afford those little hole protectors. So
yeah, I mean when second edition came out and I started getting back into D&D, or we started playing D&D, I didn't have a lot of DM stuff because I wasn't running their game. But when I did look to the Monstrous Command, it just I don't know. I don't know if that was me back then. I just couldn't wrap my head around a 3-ring binder instead of.
It's good for organization. Like if you want just specific monsters, you take it out and you have those monsters there. Like it's a great idea.
I get the idea now,
But even
25 years later,
I think it's just
I get it now.
Yeah.
But back then, I was like, was I so ingrained in just books that I couldn't see past a thing not being a book?
Oh, for me, it was never that. It was the actual physical limitations of it that, like I say, like you'd lose sheets or rip sheets out, and like I don't know how many things all those like dividers, I'd rip those out all the time because things get caught. Binders are terrible for holding anything. Like I hate binders.
I mean, if you look at some of the other games back then, like Shadowrun, because that's the one game I know the best. Everything they have is a book. They're source books. They're critter books. They're it wasn't a banner kind of thing.
I like the idea of the cards better almost than this. If it was like the card system, I think that's even more useful than the binder system.
Yeah, because I think the Monstrous Command does turn into a book later on down the line, if I remember right.
Probably not with all the different versions. How many you were collecting them all at one point? How many different
there's a
volumes?
There's 13, I think.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, as apparently a little Lord Fauntleroy who could afford the little protectors for the pages.
Special.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was the obvious choice for books going forward, especially considering in this very article we found out that there's a printing error in Vampires. That entry was useless because it was two of the same pages.
And now that you say that, I think later on they'd give you a sheet to replace it. I think even.
So they would be that simple as to, okay, volume 1 had a mistake. Well, when volume 2 comes out, you're going to get a piece of paper that you just go boop, 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 done. And there's your errata.
Any updates, any errata, it's easy to fix. Yeah. I don't know if they ever did that, but it's a good idea. Like the idea is really well. I don't know how well executed it was, but the idea is really well.
No, maybe I'm wrong. I don't think the books I'm thinking of are just the reprints from modules and magazines. The Monstrous Companion annuals, they called them, or books.
I think they did eventually they go to monster manuals back, and they don't do 3-ring binders today, so they go back eventually. But I always find I still have
15 Monstrous Companions.
15. Does that include all the spin-off ones, like all the different
ones?
Yeah,
those are the spin-off ones, yeah. From the first 1, 2, 3, the original 3, all the way through Dragonlance, Greyhawk, Spelljammer, Outer Plane, Grimloft.
I think I only had
got 2.
I think
Folio.
I had the first 2, and I think I had Spelljammer, and maybe Oriental Adventures. I think.
Yeah, I had Alkadim and.
The question is, do you put them in alphabetical order, or do you separate them by world?
I was thinking about that as I was collecting them. Do I put them all in one binder?
Well, they would never
order,
fit.
But then I thought in my said alphabetical order, but still divided because.
Yeah, that's the way I would do it. Also.
If you're an Alkadim or a Karatur,
you want to know what's there.
You're only going to be involved with those monsters, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I say, I still have it. I probably lost some sheets from it, but it's an interesting thing. Comment below if you think they should go back to binders.
I'm really curious to see if people enjoyed the Monstrous Companion when it came out in sheets, or were they kind of like me and just kind of set in their ways at the time. Because right now I embrace the Monstrous Companion as the sheets because I can see the benefits to it. As back then I could not see the benefits for it. And that again, was just chopped at me being stubborn and closed-minded at the time.
So Pat's stubborn and closed-minded. I'm just a mess who rips things all the time, and Jack is a organized, fastidious little guy who could afford whole protectors.
He worked for a printer, so he probably just stole them from me.
He didn't work at a printer then. He was actually probably pretty soon starting working for a printer.
Within 3, by 19 I was
stealing them from his lieutenant's desk.
No, that was even later.
No, this was he's working for religious people.
And it would have been a lieutenant.
Yeah, stop getting it wrong.
All right, Rob, the show is yours.
What Jack might have another ad. Jack, do you have another ad?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, all right.
Both mine are right next to each other, so it's all right.
Fastidious little boy.
Yes, because you follow the rules. 107. It's a school. They're sideways, so it's kind of annoying because everybody's got to tilt their heads. But it's Shadowrun and another print that they're selling prints of the Shadowrun cover, which that'd be very cool to have a poster of that because it's a cool picture.
Yeah.
Larry Elmore.
I have this book, and
you have this book in multiple versions.
Yeah, and my mom sent me a box of books that she found and had this book in it. And I don't know if I told the story last time, but when I got the box of books and I was looking through them, I opened up the book, and lo and behold, I had Larry Elmore sign.
I believe you did mention this last time.
Yeah, so sign it, and I don't even know where I got him signed. So
he doesn't know.
Old story. We'll move on.
The other one is on next page. Is Spelljammer. We were talking about this last time. That was the black and white picture. This is the actual cover to the box set. This is why we don't remember it, because that big Spelljammer thing takes up a half the page. So that's why you remember more of the Spelljammer, not so much the people in the cover.
Yeah.
I still don't. When I saw this, I was like, no.
Speaking of Elithids, right there.
Yep. Well, the Mind Flayers are big on. That was like the main bad guys in Spelljammer. The Mind Flayers.
They were like the pirates.
Yeah. So that's the box set, which I also have somewhere. It's up there. It's probably right over there. Actually, I think you can see it. It's the box is pretty destroyed because I went through it a lot, but I'm pretty sure it's all there. I don't know. I haven't been looked in that long time. So, and that's all my ads. That's it.
Okay. So, well, I guess then let's wrap up episode 150.
Jack, I hit my mic.
Like, share, and subscribe.
The booth's saying we heard a gonk.
Gong.
It's not an episode if I don't smack my mic at least one point.
As always, we enjoy your comments. Please.
Is there a mouse in your pocket? I don't like the comments.
Let us know.
Yeah, that's right.
Let us know if you like the Monsters Companion the way they are.
We had another question. I can't remember what it is now.
Yeah, it was your question. I can't remember what it was.
I always throw out questions because I don't remember.
Yeah. Well,
so if you remember, let us know what the question was, and please answer in the comments below.
Was it about the bottoms of my feet, like the way I should smush them together? Here, let me show you.
Let's okay. That's it. That's the show.
We're calling it. All right. Well, so to save everyone's sanity, for the Dragon's Tome, I've been your host, Chopper.
I'm Jack.
And I'm Rob.
We'll see you again next week on the Dragon's Tome.
And you can find Jack's foot fetish Patreon at